Good morning and welcome to my Monday messages. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Rebecca. I'm a homeopath, a holistic life coach and a natural health advocate. And as part of my commitment to sharing what I know, my years of experience in clinical practice, in helping as many as possible to improve and upgrade your health on a physical level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level. As part of that, I pop in here to share a thought or a simple practice or something that maybe will provoke you to just becoming more conscious of the things that may work for you to improve your health and the things that might be maybe keeping you a bit stuck. So, welcome on this 1st of November. So, in the period of Samhain in the Celtic calendar, Halloween, and I know last night was Halloween, the night where the veil is thin and we are more aware of our spirits, our ghosts, and our ancestors, hopefully. And I think these days, most of us may be just celebrating some tiny part of what this was originally about, which was to honour the transition from from light to darkness, the time of the year where we are going into the darker months and very much shifting our focus from external, from outside, and going inwards. And obviously many of the other sentient beings, and including the plants and the trees around us, going inwards and shedding what is no longer necessary for these coming months and just really conserving energy and going inwards. That's what it was originally about. And the whole kind of spirit, ghouly, ghosty thing was much more about being closer to our ancestors and that thin veil, the division between light and dark, between outside and inside, between the physical world and the spiritual world, becoming blurred, becoming thinner, and honouring that, recognising it, and taking strength from it. And of course, it was celebrated with fire, with bonfires, with artificial light and warmth. That's all kind of got a bit lost, really, with many of us. And it was just one of the things that led me to talk about what I'm going to talk about today, which is living in a society where there's a lot of taking things out of context, of the original meaning, and our understanding of something has got lost, really, or it's been completely changed into something else. We're living, obviously, in an era where we're bombarded daily with so-called news, so-called claims about all sorts of things that are cherry-picked, for lack of a better expression. They're deliberately taken out of context and used for some other purpose often. Not always, that's not always the case. Sometimes, most of the time, that I believe that is intentional in some way. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just laziness, or it's, a lack of awareness, or a lack of time to investigate whether something that has already been said many, many times, maybe, where does it come from? What context was that said in, or what context was that action made in? Did that person really say that? Or was that part of something else? And therefore, when we see it in context, it actually completely changes the meaning and therefore our understanding of it. There are numerous examples of this. I'm sure we're all aware of somebody in the media that's been misquoted, and then it's found out to be, that actually what they really said was nothing to do with just lifting that thing out of the body. And I can see there's a couple of people on. You're very, very welcome. Do let me know that you can hear me. I'm always slightly nervous that I'm speaking and no one can hear me. So if you can think of anything where you've encountered maybe your own words, being quoted back at you, thanks for the thumbs up, and being quite annoyed or saddened that actually, no, that's not what I meant at all. I didn't say it like that. I said it, amongst a load of other things. It's really annoying and frustrating when that happens, because we've been misquoted, we've been misunderstood, we've been portrayed often as something that we're not. And I think that happens much, much more than we actually are conscious of. And I'm very aware of it in the natural health arena. And often we haven't got time to do the research. We place our trust in certain people who deliver information, and we just choose to believe them. We are placing our trust in people who we think have the same integrity, the same belief systems, the same value systems as ourselves. And sometimes that's true, sometimes that's right, and sometimes we do have to place our trust in other people, because otherwise it will be a very lonely world. And a lot of it, though, in a really good attempt to look after ourselves, we take natural health tools that are given in the media or on social media, whatever, in articles, magazine articles, or even repeated by friends. We take them out of context. And we take them, therefore, as meaning that if they have been healthy, if somebody says this is healthy, this superfood, whatever the hell a superfood is healthy, it means that it's healthy for everybody, that everybody should take it, because then this, and this will happen and I will be healthier. And then we get very disappointed when we don't get the results that we are setting out to achieve. And often that's because we haven't really looked at the context in which those claims have been made. So just maybe reading something and asking, where does this come from, actually? Given that any article is not going to be able to reproduce the entire contents of a piece of study or a piece of research, or however this claim has come to light, then am I missing something? Is there something that actually means that it's not really applicable to me? It can take time to do that, and I understand that that's not an easy option often, although most studies are reproduced online, so it is possible to just double check where things are coming from and just get a better understanding of, is it actually true, or is there some other piece of information that makes it perhaps less true than I think it is, less true than it is being presented as, for example. Looking at the numbers of people that were used in the study, for example, was it a very small number? Was it a huge number? Were they only people of a certain type or already exhibiting a certain set of pathology? All of those things. It's just seeing things in context and getting a better understanding of them. there are a number of examples of that. I have a lot of people who are very disappointed because in their heads, they are really believing that they're doing the best that they can for themselves. They've read various articles, they've taken suggestions from people, and they're eating foods that are supposed to be healthy. And without having an understanding of whether they're actually healthy for them. So understanding that what might be really healthy for one person could be actually completely counterproductive for you in what you're doing. Because there aren't health panaceas. There aren't these magic substances that if I eat them or if I do them or if I engage in them, then my health will improve exponentially. It's just not true. So it's very disappointing when we don't get those results. So I wanted to urge you to look a little bit deeper, look beneath or behind the curtain, and just understand the context of where things are coming from, including stories that you've been told or myths or beliefs. So when it comes to natural health, it's really true that often the tools that we choose to use are used out of context, and therefore we get disappointing results. I find this to be true when I'm teaching my home prescribing courses, for example, that often when I'm told, well, I have prescribed homeopathic remedies at home, I don't really get the results that I'm looking for. It doesn't really work for me. And so they've abandoned homeopathy for a while, or they just use it in a very muted way. And often when I delve a bit deeper and ask, well, give me an example, tell me of a case where you've used a remedy and it hasn't worked in some way. And often that is about using homeopathic remedies, but in an allopathic way. So what I mean by that is that we're using homeopathic remedies expecting the same kind of results as when we give an over-the-counter pharmaceutical medicine. So let me give you an example. If you're treating a fever, for example, if you're looking at a child with a fever and you are wanting to take the fever away, that's your intention. You want to stop the fever and you want to take it away as quickly as possible. If you want to do that, then using homeopathic remedies is not going to give you what you want. It might do by chance, but it isn't ultimately going to be very reliable for that because it doesn't work that way. So when we're giving something like Calpol or Nurofen or some kind of paracetamol-based drug, by and large, we are looking to stop the expressions of some kind of internal dis-ease. Because fever, for example, is the first thing that we do when we're trying to fight something off. It's a first line response from our immune systems to fight off some kind of pathogen that's there, shouldn't be there. It's what we do when we think the water might be slightly dodgy. When we boil it, don't we? It raises the temperature, and 9 times out of 10, if it's allowed to do its job, it will kill off many pathogens. That's the purpose of a fever. So when we're giving something like paracetamol, we stop that process. And therefore, the only way to measure it, the success of it, is if the fever goes away. If the temperature drops or the person isn't hot anymore, isn't cold anymore, whatever. Those are the only measurements that we have when we use a pharmaceutical drug to in that way. With homeopathy, What we're doing is we don't want to stop the fever because we recognise that the fever is doing a job, that it has a job to do, and that if it's allowed to do that job, it will do it really well. It will do it really efficiently. But we want to make our child feel more comfortable while it's going on, and that we want to maybe speed up the process, make it more efficient, and enable it to move through the process, because it is a process. It's not an event. So we're not seeking to stop something dead in its tracks. We're seeking to help it along, to support it, to encourage it, and to enable it to be productive, and to enable your child, or you, or whoever you're treating, to be stronger and fitter and more healthy at the end of it. So therefore, we don't measure it by, has the temperature gone? Now, sometimes if you get right at the end of a temperature cycle, that is indeed what may happen, that it might just move through it so quickly that it seems as if the fever has just gone. And I've witnessed that myself several times. But often the fever might actually need to ramp up a bit. But what happens is that the child or the person that you're treating, their form is better. They're able to, they perk up a bit. They're coping with it better. They might be able to start drinking or eating or having a conversation, or, perhaps sit up, or even just go to sleep to enable the body to do what it's meant to do. So your measurement of success is very different from if you were looking to just have the fever go away. So I hope that makes sense. So you're often, when people are using things like homeopathy, they're using them in a way that isn't fit for purpose. It's taking it out of context, measuring its success by the values of a completely different approach to healthcare. And when it doesn't fit in with that model, we then conclude that it doesn't work. And that's actually not the case. So, and that doesn't just apply to homeopathy, it actually applies to lots of healthcare methods. And by and large, when we're dealing with any kind of natural healthcare method, we're actually looking at observing a process, not witnessing an event. So we're not seeking to stop things dead in their tracks and disable them. We're looking to enable and continue, just to see some kind of motion of continuance, so that, thank you very much. I hope that's resonating. Obviously, that's understandable to all of you. If it isn't, please ask me questions. So I just wanted to actually draw your attention really to just have a think about, if you are using homeopathy already, or if you're using any other kind of natural healthcare method, firstly looking at the context in which you understand that healthcare tool to be valuable. Is it appropriate to use specifically? Has it been presented in a way that seems as if it's a kind of health panacea, that it's a cure-all, that it's going to work for everybody in every circumstance? Because that's just not true of anything at all. So that's the first thing. And the other thing is to ask yourself, am I expecting the same results as if I was using a pharmaceutical drug? What is my strategy in using this kind of healthcare? Is it because I understand what my body's doing? I understand how it always works towards health, and how expressions of internal dis-ease might be enabled to come out, because it's always better out than in. So, or do I just want to stop things dead? because for whatever reason. Because if you do want to stop things dead, then homeopathy isn't the right tool for you. Natural health care might not be the right tools for you. There are exceptions to that. I am speaking generally. But I just wanted to encourage you to really think about how you measure success, and whether that's taking something away immediately, or whether it's actually understanding the process and going with it and supporting that process and watching it unfold. When you're thinking about treating a cold, for example, if somebody's really stuck in doing a very thick, heavy cold, and you're looking at really thick, heavy green discharge, your measurement of success will not necessarily be, oh, like that, discharge gone. Because that generally means that that infected discharge is still there, because actually it's better that it comes out than stays in your system. What you really want is to see that the discharge moves through from being very infected, green, down to yellow maybe, down to white, down to transparent, that it gets thinner and thinner, and eventually will become less and less, and that's it, job done. Because again, discharging is the body's expression of getting something out rather than hanging on to it. So the expressions of a typical cold are actually the end results of an internal process. So I hope that gives some kind of context for using remedies yourself at home, whether they're homeopathic or whether they are other holistic health tools. Just being careful to do that within the context that it's meant to be used, and not trying to shoehorn it into another set of values, another health system that actually values different results. So that's it really, is just to consider the context of things. Just see them, make sure that something is not being presented to you out of context, and therefore that the value of it and the meaning of it has been lost or changed beyond recognition, and whether that might not serve you very well. The cynic in me would say that when it comes to natural medicine, that with some people that's quite deliberate, actually, is to misrepresent things so that they are ineffective. And therefore the feedback will be, well, that doesn't work. That's no good. Let's go back to pharmaceutical medicine. That's my belief system. So, and also be careful of things that are being presented as a kind of cure-all. I'm very aware of CBD oil at the moment that is being used by so many people totally inappropriately. And this is not because CBD oil is not effective. It is amazing when it is prepared correctly, when the dosage is fully understood, and when it is appropriate to whatever is going on in the person. And most of us are not fully cognizant of how CBD oil works and how it doesn't work in some cases, and how in others it is actually counterproductive. And it would be something, by the way, that I would actually consider as a possible block to somebody being able to use well-indicated remedies, because it can switch off our ability to receive all sorts of medicines. So that's not meant to be a kind of scaremongering thing, but I'm just giving it as an example of things being taken out of context and then being set up to be disappointing because they don't work when they're used out of context. I think that's it. So I'm encouraging you to be a little bit of a detective, to actually not take things at face value, to always ask, well, where does this come from? What context is this being given in? And is it appropriate to me? Does it actually apply to me? Or actually, am I not really in that category? So that's number one. And also, if you're a home prescriber, then just ask yourself, how am I measuring the success of homeopathic remedies? And might that be feeding into my feeling that I'm not getting the results that I want? And if you would like to know more about using homeopathy and using it really successfully, and you'd like support in doing that, then do consider joining my private Facebook group, Homeopathy in Your Hands. And there's a link to that in the post with this video. And also, the same link will take you to an opportunity to book a free call with me if you want to know more about how I work. So thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely first week in November. Enjoy just slowing down and enjoy watching the leaves fall and welcoming the darkness, welcoming the slowing down and the quietness, and going back into that slightly womb-like state where we're warm and safe, and we can harvest all our resources and be creative. Okay, have a great week. Thanks.